everybody. So I am going to be presenting about two children who presented with a similar salt losing disease. So I'll start with the first case. It's a male baby first born to third degree consanguineous marriage with an uneventful antenatal period. Baby was delivered by LSCS at 35 weeks of life with an issue of PPROM. The baby had no perinatal issues, cried well at birth with birth weight up with the appropriate centiles, and was discharged on day 3 of life with the direct breastfeeding. However, the baby presented to the OPD on day 9 of life for yellowish discoloration of the body. At that time, it was noted that there was a 21% weight loss. The baby was weighing 1.71 kg, and there was visible signs of dehydration in the form of depressed AF, sunken eyes, a prolonged CRT, and feeble pulses. Labs done during admission at this time showed hemo concentration with hemoglobin of 19.7. Counts and platelets were normal. Renal parameters showed a pre-renal AKI with urea being 64 and creatinine 0.46. The electrolytes done at this time showed hyponatremia with sodium of 127, with hyperkalemia of potassium of 8.1 and metabolic acidosis. So this combo of hyponatremia and hyperkalemia, there are very few differential diagnoses with that. Hyponatremia plus hyperkalemia, you have two differentials. One is a mineralocorticoid deficiency, that is an aldosterone deficiency. And second is a CKD with dilutional hyponatremia. In this child, with the background of dehydration, CKD with dilutional hyponatremia is unlikely. So we have to think of a mineralocorticoid deficiency. So in mineralocorticoid deficiencies, the common things are congenital adrenal hyperplasia and Addison's disease. The rarer diseases include congenital adrenal hypoplasia, aldosterone synthetase deficiency, and pseudohypoaldosteronism. In a newborn with this presentation, our first thing would be congenital adrenal hyperplasia. So aldosterone, I'll give a brief overview about the action. Aldosterone is a mineralocorticoid which acts mainly in the distal collecting tubule. That is the principal cells. It acts on the mineralocorticoid receptors and helps in sodium and potassium exchange at the principal cells. So for the action of aldosterone, you need a mineralocorticoid receptor, you need a sodium potassium ATPase and an ENaC channel. So on examination, there was no ambiguous genitalia or hyperpigmentation in this child. So the treatment we started was fluid resuscitation for the severe dehydration. And as we thought the child had congenital adrenal hyperplasia, we gave hydrocortisone and fludrocortisone after taking adequate samples. Dyslipidemia, however, persisted in this child despite our treatment. On reviewing the labs, 17 OHP for this child was normal, which rules out the 21 alpha hydroxylase deficiency. ACTH was normal, which rules out congenital adrenal hyperplasia. And cortisol was 21, which was okay, considering the child was in shock at that time. Aldosterone in this child was high. It was 100 against a maximum normal of 23. Then again, we've been speaking about aldosterone deficiency so far, but this child had a high aldosterone levels, which means the child has pseudo-hypoaldosteronism. So with this reports, hydrocortisone and fludrocortisone were stopped. Child was started on 3% NaCl, K-bind and soda bicarb for hyponatremia, hyperkalemia and the acidosis. Salt loss persisted despite this with inadequate weight gain and polyuria. The child was started on oral indomethacin. The mechanism is that indomethacin reabsorbs sodium and water from loop of Henle, and similar mechanism is used in treatment of Bartter syndrome. With this, the sodium value somewhat stabilized. During the treatment course, the child had a lower sodium of 113 and a high potassium of 9.5. However, with this treatment, we were able to stabilize that. And sodium supplementation, we were actually giving up to 32 milliequivalents per kg against a normal maintenance of 3 to 4 milliequivalents. But we were able to come down with the indomethacin treatment. Genetic analysis in this child showed autosomal recessive variety of pseudohypoaldosteronism type 1. They noted it as uncertain significance. However, we have sent parental sequencing as well. So currently, the baby is maintaining sodium and potassium with a daily sodium intake of 15 millimole per kg per day, has 3% NaCl mixed to each feed. K-bind enema, mother is giving 6th hourly. No doses for the acidosis 3.5 millimole per kg and indomethacin at 0.2 milligram per kg. There was adequate weight gain during the last visit and the milestones were somewhat appropriate for it. So the second child is a 6-month-old infant. antenatally detected a duplex collecting system on the right side with an obstructive upper moiety. For this, the baby was operated on the first month of life and was initially doing well. The problem started at 3 months of life when the child had a culture positive UTI treated outside with IM amikacin for 7 days. There have been issues of poor weight gain with intermittent episodes of vomiting and lethargy since this UTI episode. To put it into perspective, the child had a birth weight of 2.5 kg, and at 3 months when the child had UTI, the weight was 4.2 kg, and now at 6 months, the child weighed 3.9 kg. There was a predominant motor delay with partial neck holding. However, the mentation was quite preserved. So at presentation to our hospital, child had poor weight gain, vomiting and refusal of feeds for the last 1 week. However, there was no history of fever or crying during menstruation. We proceeded to do a baseline labs. Total counts was normal, 10,600 with lymphocyte predominant. CRP was negative. Similar to the previous child, this child also had hyponatremia, hyperkalemia with metabolic acidosis. Urine routine showed 30 to 40 pus cells with leukocyte extrace 1+. Ultrasound showed a dilated lower moiety. The upper moiety was the one previously operated with sediments on the right side. Urine culture grew ESBL E. coli of significant colonies. So this child, we had started on 3% NaCl, 5 ml per kg, followed by oral salts. K-bind and soda bicarb we are given for the high potassium. In view of the dehydration, we had maintained at 150% maintenance and meropenem for the ESBL E. coli. Aldosterone in this child was again sky high. It was 1000 against a maximum of, normal of 23. So this child again fitted into the definition of pseudo hypoaldosteronism. However, in this child, sodium and potassium values normalized within the first 48 hours. We had tapered and stopped sodium supplementation within 2 days, and soda bicarb and K-bind were stopped after a single dose. The baby improved clinically, achieved weight gain, and we had discharged the baby on nitrofurantoin prophylaxis, pending further evaluation for the renal anomaly. So this is a case report of 4 cases. What they come to say is certain infants with an obstructive moiety or with just a UTI can present with symptoms of hypoaldosteronism rather than the typical fever, rigors, vomiting, and high CRPs observed in a classical UTI. The cause for this difference is not yet clearly known. So let me give a brief overview about pseudohypoaldosteronism. Pseudohypoaldosteronism is of 2 types. The type 2 is an adolescent presentation with hypertension and hyperkalemia. However, type 1 is what we are discussing here. The type 1 can be divided into transient and permanent. Transient is the second child where a UTI and an obstructive uropathy precipitated a pseudohypoaldosteronism, which improves drastically with treatment of UTI alone. The second is the permanent type. It can occur due to defect in mineralocorticoid receptors here as an autosomal dominant defect, or in ENaC channel as an autosomal recessive defect. Our first case here are an autosomal recessive defect, that is an ENaC deficiency. ENaC, the autosomal dominant type presents only with renal issues. However, the autosomal recessive type, in view of ENaC channels being present in multiple places, will present somewhat similar to a cystic fibrosis with recurrent respiratory infections and skin lesions. So take home message, not all mineralocorticoid deficiencies in newborn are CAH. Consider other differentials as well. Infants with obstructive uropathy or UTI can be complicated with a transient hypoaldosteronism. They may not have the classical features of fever, rigors, and high CRP. Thank you.